Women constitute about 52% of the population, and political accountability begins with women, increasing the number of women who can actually take part in decision making. Zimbabwe has adopted quotas to boost female participation, but lack of access to information has disenfranchised a lot of women from participating in such processes. As 2018 elections approaches, a civil society group has launched an aggressive campaign to encourage young women to participate, to register and vote in elections. With me today, I have Tariro Senderayi from Women for Women Solidarity Movement, who are spearheading the hashtag #SheVotes2018. Tariro, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Okay, maybe we can start off by looking at the level of women participation in Zimbabwe when it comes to elections in Zimbabwe.
When it comes to elections in Zimbabwe, I think when it comes to women as voters, the participation is very impressive. It's something to actually, I think it's motivating, especially even for those who don't participate in elections, because women, when they go out to vote, they vote in their numbers. But unfortunately, as candidates, then their participation as candidates is the one that is actually questionable. So that's one thing now we are trying to encourage as many young women between the ages of 18 and 35 to actually run for public office if they can. But then we also realize that with the demographic of women being mostly voters, they give the strongest support system to people who are running for political office, especially the men. So we realize that the strongest support system that women provide for male politicians, why not use those numbers to the advantage of young women and actually rally behind and support young women who are running for public office. So that support system, we take it away from the men, but then give it to the young women instead.
Now, having outlined the dire situation when it comes to women participation, what can you explain the thinking behind the hashtag #SheVotes2018?
The concept behind the campaign #SheVotes2018 is that we are trying to actually lobby for a political level playing field where young women can actually participate more as running candidates for elections. We have seen that, with the representation of young women in the halls of power, it's a dismal representation, and we felt that without a significant representation of young women in the halls of power, our voice will not be heard. If anything, our voice will be drowned when it comes to decisions being made. So we actually decided to say that we want young women, one, to be educated, to exercise their right to vote in terms of Section 67, subsection 3 of the Constitution. We are not saying that it is our place for us to tell them who to vote for, but it's our place to make sure that on election day, they show up and they vote in their numbers. So our campaign is mainly to educate young women, to actually conscientize them about their right to vote. Secondly, to also make sure that women realize that they have the numbers to their favor and they can swing the decisions in their favor because of the 52%. And also, we are also trying to say that, with the failing economy like the one that Zimbabwe is experiencing right now, the person suffering the most or who's bearing the bare brunt of it all is the young women. We look at it as a demographic to say that the hierarchy in every society, first is the men on top, the men who are above the ages of 35. Then comes the young men, then comes the older women, and then the young women is nowhere. So with that demographic, or with those statistics, we realize that with our campaign, we bring in a different dynamic to say that instead of young women just voting in their numbers, but they should also run for public office. So it's a two-pronged approach: to vote as much as they can and also to run for public office. Also, it's based on capacity, in fact, the running for public office.
Okay, even also looking at running for office, what are some of the key hindrances that women participation faces when it comes to electoral processes and also decision making in general?
One of the key hindrances I think that women face in terms of elections, or actually actively participating in electoral processes, is that I think women, we are worst enemies. I think women, if anything, we do not support one another. There is always that pull her down syndrome whereby ukanzwa kuti Anzi Ningi is running maybe to be councillor ward or whatever it is. There are women who are actually willing to give their votes to a man just because the other candidate is a woman. And I think unless and until we shift our mindset from saying that this woman can actually steer the country in the right direction, things will remain the same. Also, another hindrance that's there is that there's the apathy. I mean, we have the younger demographic of voters or capable voters between the ages of 18 and let's just say maybe 24, who actually don't participate in electoral processes, who believe that their vote is worth nothing, their vote changes nothing. So we actually have that hindrance of apathy right now going on, not only in the urban areas, but also in the rural areas, but mainly in the rural areas, kushaya ruzivo. Because of the patriarchal nature of our societies, young women in the rural areas don't actually believe that they can be in the forefront of elections. They can actually participate and cast their vote. So those are some of the hindrances. And I also want to add one more hindrance is that, there's the lack of resources. With their male counterparts, when it comes to the competition of jostling for positions, we realize that young women are actually lacking more in terms of the resources to mobilize people to vote for them, campaign resources. They have none of that as compared to their male counterparts. So those are the hindrances that are actually there to actually encumber the active participation of young women in electoral processes.
So now with the implementation of the She Vote 2018, actually the hashtag She Vote 2018, how do you intend to increase women participation in elections other than just getting them into leadership? How do you want to get a lot of women being able to cast their ballot come 2018?
I think the first port of call is that there is need to educate women on the value of voting, on the importance of voting, and the pride that comes from you actually having been part of a decision that came to fruition. So our first port of call is to say that we want to educate the young women to then realize that there are fruits in actually taking part in elections. There are fruits in voting for your own counterparts. Not voting for your own counterpart just because she's a woman, but because she's a capable young woman who actually exhibits leadership qualities or characteristics. So what's there is that we're trying to say that we educate first, encourage them to vote as much as we can, go to them. We don't require them to come to us, but we go to them, whether it's in the rural community, whether it's in the urban community. We go to them and hear their political desires, to hear what they want to see different, to hear how they would actually say, I want to be part of this, and hear what actually they are bringing to the table. We are not there to impose for them to do what we want them to do, but we should be the ear that then transcribes what we hear from them into action, to say that for them to actively participate, we have to hear what they want and implement that.
So apart from women being the majority of the population, why else do you think it is important, especially for democracy to exist in Zimbabwe, to have a lot of women who are actually participating in the elections?
I think one of the key ingredients in actually achieving the democratization agenda is elections. And I think it's very important for us to realize when it comes to democracy, we're actually speaking about the inclusivity, cutting through genders, cutting through religions, to say that we want everyone to be included in the decision-making processes equally, whether it's male people or female people, but we want the inclusivity to be equal. So in achieving the democratization agenda, we say that elections are just but one ingredient, but in those elections, we should seek for equality in terms of actually saying that if women are capable to run for office, we rally behind them, we support them. If men are capable, yes, we support them as well. But right now with what's going on, especially with inter-party politics, is that there is so much jostling for power or positions, whereby it's the older men fighting for positions, younger men fighting for positions, older women fighting for positions. This then leaves the younger woman nowhere. So where does she get the support system? Our campaign endeavors to actually educate these women on the characteristics they have to be a leader, or to say, I want to be a councillor of my ward, I want to be an MP, and we give them the strongest support system that they can ever want, because at the end of the day, it's about support. If they don't have that support, that sufficient support, they will always shy away from taking part in elections. And also there's the issue of violence, intimidation. That's another hindrance why young women don't fully participate. So we actually try to demystify this fear and say to them, right now what's happening is that this fear is just fear being put out there on your minds. The predators out there are preying on your mind. It's not a real fear that is actually there. So we go out there and we educate them on elections, on the value of voting. We demystify the issue of fear so that they actually go there willingly and actually say that, you know what, I want to be part of this process. And tomorrow when the outcome is what they actually wanted, they take pride in that, to say that I was part of that grand decision that took place.
Okay, now finally you talked about older men fighting for positions. So how do you anticipate dealing with the resistance by both political parties as well as the status quo when it comes to promoting women participation in leadership?
Okay, that's a very valid question. I think the trump card we have as hashtag #2018 is that we are non-partisan. And we are women who are saying, regardless of the political outfit we get as a young woman, if you want to run for public office, we'll give you the support system. If you want to vote, if you need the adequate education on what voting is all about, how to vote, and what are the requirements, we give that to you and put it to your disposal. So what then happens is that I think what works in our favor for us not to get people saying, what are you doing? Or we then say we are apolitical. We open our arms widely to invite all women, all young women between the ages of 18 and 35, regardless of which political party you support. But when our agenda is the common agenda of making sure that we have a significant number of young women in the halls of power, then we are together. And I think, as long as we are united in that front, nothing can stop us. And right now, with the representation that's there, it's a bit dismal. So we're trying to up the ante and make sure that young women, we have as many as we can, who've got the capacity to lead, to actually be in the halls of power.
So that was the message coming to you loud and clear from Tariro Senderayi, that women who constitute the majority of the population should go out and vote. And as they say, it's hashtag #SheVotes2018. So make sure all the women out there cast your ballot in 2018.
Thank you.